Hello, and welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Network podcast, where everyone belongs, especially if you think you don't. My name is Chris Grundeman, and I'm here with my exceptional co-host, Zoe Rose.
Hello.
This is the Dave Kennedy episode, and I know you're going to love it. Dave is the founder of Binary Defense and TrustedSec. He's a co-host on the Hacking Your Health podcast, and a former U.S. Marine. He founded DerbyCon, created a bunch of widely popular open source cybersecurity tools, and the list just goes on. Hey, Dave, would you mind introducing yourself a bit further to the Imposter Syndrome Network?
Yeah. Hey, Chris and Zoe. Thanks for having me on today. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, been very fortunate to be in the security industry. I started 2 cybersecurity companies from the basement of my house. And, it was good timing because I was leaving a perfectly stable and good job. And my wife just had twins and decided to go and start, 2 companies in the basement of my house, which probably wasn't the best decision, but it turned out to work out well.
Wow.
Yeah, I look back at young Dave. I'm like, what were you thinking back then, Dave? But no, I've been very, very fortunate on that. I do a lot of news interviews. I'm on all the various media organizations like CNBC and MSNBC and CNN and Fox and all those other things. Worked on the Mr. Robot TV show. I've been in a Chris Brown rap video, believe it or not. So I was a hacker in the background and helped with the stunts and skits for a rap video, which was interesting. Never thought I would ever do that. And, my passion's always been cybersecurity. I've been in the industry for over 25 years and started my career off in the military intelligence side of the house doing cyber warfare and got out into the private sector, testified in front of Congress on numerous occasions. And, again, my whole passion is trying to make the world a safer place and help people come into the cybersecurity industry and help others out. That's been kind of my goal and objectives throughout my entire career.
That's awesome. Super great. We're going to dive into a lot of that, I think. But I kind of want to start, you're kind of a big deal, both inside and outside of the InfoSec community. Not many security nerds have over 175,000 followers on Twitter.
They're all bots. Fair enough.
Wait, I'm not a bot.
You got at least one.
I've got one follower.
I got 1 or 2 followers. There we go.
Well, and I do suspect, though, that some of that may come to you not just for being a hacker, but being jacked as well. I mean, obviously, this is a podcast, so people can't see you busting out your shirt there. And we'll talk about your podcast in a bit. But first, I want to, why don't you tell us how you came to have a picture of a tweet from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson hanging on your wall?
So the Rock has always been an inspirational figure to me growing up as a kid. I used to watch, WCW and WWF, and you always had The Rock going through there, and obviously I followed him throughout his whole career. And it was one of those things where I was working out downstairs in my gym, and The Rock was just coming out with the Black Adam movie, and I was really excited about the movie to see Rock in it. I'm a huge DC and Marvel fan. I used to read the comics as a kid, and so the first night it came out, went and saw it. But I also bought a bunch of Rock merch, which was Black Adam gear that was lifting equipment. And The Rock has a whole like Under Armour brand and stuff like that for his stuff, and I really enjoy his brand. So I posted a picture of myself working out in a full on Black Adam workout gear, with a hoodie and everything. And The Rock responded back to it and said, "Looking good, brother. Go get it and appreciate it." And so that kind of started off, and I was like, "Well, this will be funny. What I'm going to do is I'm going to frame the tweet and hang it up on the wall." But the issue that I had is I didn't really pay attention to the size I ordered. And I got this like massive, massive frame. I mean, the thing is like the size of me. And it came in this gigantic box. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? So I thought it'd be funny to take a picture of my family photos that are hanging up in my main area when you first walk into my house and replace it with the whole frame of my Rock. So all my family photos went down, and then I had a poster of The Rock sitting there. And so The Rock thought it was hilarious, and he posted it back and he said, "Hey, what a better place, to put The Rock at. Hope you sleep well tonight, with the missus or whatever." So it was a really funny tweet. And I'll share publicly, now I framed that picture as well with the same size, and I have that sitting there, and I'm going to have my kids hanging it up with me and send another picture out to The Rock. So I hope he doesn't retweet it, to be honest with you, because I don't have to order a third poster. And, this is starting to become an issue because I don't know where to put them anymore because they're so big.
You have to dedicate a room just to these.
No, just use it as wallpaper. You don't even need frames anymore. Just start pasting it to the wall.
The whole wall could be. I think that's a great idea. I think Aaron will
Just
support that.
don't tell your wife that I said that.
She saw the second poster coming and she said, seriously? Like, really? I'm like, but I got 50% off of this one. Like, it was like a good deal because they and so yeah, she deals with a lot with me. So
That's brilliant. I was following that over Twitter and it was so hilarious. Although I didn't realize it was that massive. I was thinking like the size of me, but bloody hell, the size of you as well.
It's huge. The thing is, I mean, it's like you're hanging up this massive poster on your wall, and it took up like half the space of where all my family photos were, like my whole family and everything else. And it was pretty good. It was a good laugh. And Rock seemed to roll with the punches. Seems like a really, really good dude. So
awesome. I think for me, it kind of brings me to a question about, I hate using the term influencer, but because I find it very awkward, but it's something around like, how do you feel social media has kind of helped with building your personal brand as well as taking that for work? Because as an entrepreneur, you're a little bit more directly related to who you are as the business is. If you make a big mistake, it reflects badly on the business. If you do really well, theoretically, it would reflect quite well on your business. Do you feel like social media has supported you in building your business, or has it been more, I don't know, maybe detrimental? I suppose not, though.
Coming up through the security industry, when I first started off, I remember going to DEF CON. I think it was DEF CON 10 was my first DEF CON. And I remember seeing all these like amazing folks like Phil Zimmerman and Fedor and the Shmoo Group and Cult of Dead Cows and all of these like heroes that really laid the groundwork for the industry that we have today. And these were kind of like my idols I looked at in the industry of like, these people are groundbreaking. They're doing new things. And I looked at that and I was like, there's no way I'll ever be as smart as these folks because they're just absolutely brilliant. And there's no way I'll ever be as large as them in any way, shape, or form. And it wasn't like I wanted to be. It was more so I didn't have the confidence in myself, that I was going to be anywhere near what these folks were, because they're just absolutely incredible minds and brilliant and sharing their research and, moving the industry along. And so the whole influencer thing is really weird for me because I don't view myself as different than anybody else in any way, shape, or form. Everybody's peers to me. We all work together to share our knowledge, and we just have different experiences that allow us to have expertise in different areas and ways to kind of share those. And, for me, social media was always for the most part, I would say 98% of the time, a positive, influence, because I could network with my peers and share things and collaborate and learn from other people and what they're doing and just be a sponge in this industry to really kind of continue my progress in the cybersecurity space. And one of the things early on for me that was really important before social media became really a major deal was IRC. There was a lot of groups on IRC that I joined, and one of the most prolific ones that I would say was probably fundamentally one of the most foundational pieces I could have had at the time was remote exploits, or what eventually became offensive security. And the offensive security folks, most specifically Mutz, Matty Arahoni, the guy that built Backtrack and Kali Linux and all that other stuff, was really supportive of bringing new folks in and kind of training them and teaching them. And I was in the military at the time in signals intelligence, and I was learning the hacking side of things. It was relatively new. And just having a community that I could learn off of and build off of was really instrumental for me in my career. So I think for me, yes, it is tied to my businesses to some extent, and my persona, and I guess in who I am online, could have a negative impact on those. But, I think for me, what I try to be is positive, supportive, helping others. I QA resumes if I get a direct message of those. I spend time with people if they need, questions about their careers. I post positive messages around, health and fitness when, because I came from being extremely overweight and obese and unhealthy and alcoholic. I was an alcoholic, but, a lot of drinking and, not taking care of myself and partying and all this other stuff. And so, just trying to help others in their journey, because I think in our industry, we live a sedentary life and stuff like that, as well as, sharing the knowledge around technology and everything else. So, for me, social media has been more of a positive experience to help others and to also learn from others, that I think the collaboration aspect of things has been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that does, play into a little bit of kind of why Zoe and I started this podcast as well, which was to really kind of connect the community on another level and expose some of these things that maybe some of us think in the back of our minds and we don't think anybody else is thinking it. And so we want to kind of push that forward. And so usually in the podcast, we dive a little bit more into career and achievements. But I'll be honest, man, I think you're so well known and so obviously awesome in the things you've done. I want to dive right into kind of the other side of it, which is, can you tell us about a time you made a mistake at work, or maybe even like your most embarrassing mistake you've made so far?
Oh man, put me on the spot there. Well, everybody makes mistakes. And for me, I always get asked the question, what mistake would you take back, and think about again? And I'll give you a mistake example here in a second, but I look at mistakes as something you learn from and you build upon that allows you to be stronger. It's kind of like lessons learned and things like that. So I wouldn't take anything back because I am where I am today based off of the experiences and failures that I've had growing on through my career. You want to talk about imposter syndrome. One of the first times I ever got to speak at DEF CON, I was so starstruck because I was speaking at DEF CON, the conference, where I'd seen all my idols on stage before, and it was at Alexis Park. And this had moved, I think, to a different hotel at the time, but Alexis Park was where I first started at. And so I was on stage at DEF CON, and I had spent so much time perfecting my slides, perfecting my demos, doing live demos, which is the worst thing you could possibly do the first time you're ever speaking at DEF CON, by the way. And I'm like, this is going to be the most amazing, thing ever. I spent copious hours. I was up till like 4:00 in the morning, making sure everything's perfect. And I get on stage and all my demos fail. And, I'm in front of, 1,000 people. And, I just feel like I'm the smallest person in the world because, somehow I did last minute coding changes, which of course blew up everything, which of course, I should have just did a video demo. But, I felt totally like my career was over at that point because I had totally failed on stage to go and do it. And obviously that's such a myopic point in your time, and demos fail and things happen. It's how you recover and kind of move forward with it. I think it's a big deal, but it was definitely one of my most embarrassing ones. And it was to the extent to where there's a song that I play at the beginning of the thing. It's just kind of like when people were coming in, I had some like techno playing, and it was the Crystal Method name of the game. And I still to this day cannot listen to that song because it reminds me of how bad I failed at DEF CON that time. So if the name of the game's playing, I'm leaving that room because it reminds me of that time in front of everybody where I was super embarrassed, and I felt like I was just the smallest person in the world. But, we all have those mistakes. Things happen. The audience was super understanding, and, it wasn't like they're booing me off stage or anything. But at the end of the day, I just felt like I didn't do what I should have done. And, retrospect, that next year, I did a standing room only at ShmooCon and nailed it. And it was one of my best presentations I've ever given, right? So it's how we rebound and how we share our knowledge and how we feel that I think kind of overcomes those challenges that we have.
That's a really good point. I've done so many mistakes when it comes to speaking. And even like, technically it's not public speaking, but even like client meetings, you make a huge mistake and you're like, oh, that's how they're going to remember me. And then somebody comes up to you after, it's like, oh, you did a really good job because they didn't pay attention to that mistake because only you noticed it in that case. I mean, a demo failing, everybody knows a demo fails. But, that's a really good point is that's the same feedback I give other people is it's great to have the backups, the recordings, but at the end of the day, it's a demo. If it fails, it fails. We're not there to see the demo specifically. We're there to talk about what you've learned and your knowledge and the examples you've gone through. So no, that's a really good point.
Interesting one too, right? This idea, I think that one, nobody cares as much as you care.
That's true.
Right. I think we get this in our heads of like, we think everyone like now hates us or whatever, or is really disappointed. And like, they don't really, they're like, whatever, like, okay, maybe you wasted 5 minutes of my time. It's fine. Whatever.
I'll hit on something that Zoe said here, which is, I think people from an imposter syndrome perspective, when they're coming into this industry, they see, oh, this person's already established. They have 20 years of experience, or they, like H.D. Moore, he wrote Metasploits, or this person did this and this person did that. I think the lesson here is that when HT first started, he never wrote Metasploit. He was starting and learning new things every single day. And your experiences on your job, things that were challenging for you that you overcame, are very much interesting to other people, regardless of how much experience that you have. I learned from new folks that are coming into the industry, because what's really cool about new folks coming into the industry is that their learning curve is very different than mine was coming back into this. I mean, they're cloud centric. They understand Azure and they understand, all cloud technology when none of that existed when I was around. So, and they use different systems and technologies, and, they have a different level of knowledge in different areas. So for me, I learned very heavily off of new people coming into the industry and starting to build their names and credibility. And one of the conferences that I ran DerbyCon, we had a new to InfoSec track where if you're brand new to InfoSec, you could share, submit to the call for papers for that talk and share your experiences with it. And I'll tell you, it was some of the most packed audiences that we had because there were some really great topics and talks there that allowed people to learn new things that they're experiencing. So, everybody's knowledge is valuable, especially if it's something that was challenging for you, that you couldn't find a white paper on, that you couldn't find a blog on, that you spent a lot of time researching and just wasn't clear to you, and you overcame that and you were able to figure it out. That's valuable to somebody else as well. And I think that's the biggest lesson here is that sharing your experiences is probably one of the most important things you can do from a networking perspective, but also just getting yourself out of your comfort zone and being able to expand on that and build your knowledge up and help others.
No, for sure. And also because of different learning styles, I love talks. I love talks because I can hear somebody talk about, I don't know, whatever topic they want to talk about. And because they're excited, I get excited. And it's a great way to motivate myself to learn something that I wasn't going to watch a YouTube video on or I wasn't going to read a paper on. So actually for me, talks are really beneficial to growing my knowledge outside of my area of expertise.
Well, that excitement in a presentation is contagious. If you get a presenter that is passionate about what they've learned, and it's not just like okay, I'm going to run through this command and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. But they're actually explaining the struggles and their excitement when they get over things. Like it's like the first time you ever pop a shell on a system, and you get access to a box. You're just like, this is the best day ever. That excitement that you get through, someone that's presenting is very much the same type of feel because you feel their energy, you feel their excitement, you feel what they went through to get to that point. And I think that definitely reciprocates to people that are in the audience.
Yeah, we had a guest on not too long ago, Lisa Forte, who said something along those lines.
Oh, Lisa's awesome.
Yeah.
Lisa's awesome.
And that was her advice, right? It was like, hey, listen, if you're talking about something you're passionate about, I don't care if it's thimbles. I think that was the example she used, right? I don't care if it's thimbles. If you're passionate about it, like the audience is going to come with you. They're going to be excited too. You can sense that, right? There's that that energy. So yeah.
I was also thinking about Lisa, actually. I'm always thinking about her. She's brilliant. But you're also, obviously, we already talked about, you're a founder of Binary Defense and TrustedSec. And one thing that Lisa said when we interviewed her is being a founder, you have to do, or an entrepreneur, you have to take on many different hats, many different things outside of what you actually are doing, right? Marketing, you have to do sales, you have to do this, you have to do that. I imagine you've run into that situation as well. The last update I had about your business is you had just gotten a new office that was very lovely looking, and I believe you have a gym in it as well, understandably.
Absolutely.
But is there ever a time that you feel, even now, you feel like, how did I get here? And maybe, do you ever feel that sense of not knowing enough or not being good enough to do what you're doing?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started these businesses, I had no idea what I was doing. And it's an unknown factor because you're leaving a perfectly stable job. You have a family to support. And I had no idea how to even start an LLC or what an MSA looked like or a statement of work or proposals or legal things that I had to do. I didn't know how to have, liability insurance. I had no idea what I was doing. And, these are the things that it's very similar to cybersecurity. When you're first starting off in your cybersecurity degree or your career, you don't know the foundations of networking, what ping is or ICMP or TCP or UDP or anything else. You don't know how web applications work. You have to learn those things, right? And you have to take that knowledge and you have to build upon that knowledge to continue to grow in the specializations that you have. Business is no different. It's going into an unknown and you have to take on new hats and roles and you have to start to figure things out and then you start to build on those knowledges. And, going back to the thing about mistakes before, there's plenty of mistakes that I've made in my career in business because I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned from those and I was able to then build upon those and be successful with it. And, I look back now, I don't think Dave today, if I didn't know everything today to old Dave, I probably wouldn't have done what I did before just because it's such a risky deal. But when you're young, you're like, oh, I can do anything, right? I'll be good. But I'm glad I did because, we have over 400 employees. We're worldwide. We continue to grow. I'm having the best time of my life. And I get to work with people, day in and day out that are just amazing individuals that do awesome things and align with my mission of trying to make the world a safer place. So, unless you take that plunge and you go into the unknown, knowing that you don't know anything about what you're doing, that you have a belief in yourself and a trust in yourself that you're going to spend the time to learn it, you're going to be successful with whatever you do. Because nothing we do, other than maybe some of the crazy stuff around artificial intelligence or quantum cryptography or everything that we do in cybersecurity is learnable and it's doable. As long as you spend enough time. I remember there was a FRAC article that came out, I think from Egypt, on getting around data execution prevention. And it was when DEP was brand new. And so data execution prevention is a way of stopping rewriting of an overflow of a stack to make it read-only, so you can't write instructions for it. So it's commonly used in exploits and buffer overflows and things like that, traditional exploits. And I was learning exploit development at the time and reverse engineering and this type of stuff. And there wasn't a lot of data on data execution prevention because it was brand new. So this FRAC article comes out and I read through it and I have no idea what it means. I'm like, I don't understand this at all. And I must have spent 2 weeks in my basement just pounding away in a disassembler and a debugger and trying to figure out how data execution prevention works. And I felt like the dumbest person in the world because I couldn't figure this out and other people were figuring it out. And it wasn't something that I just understood. And after about 2 weeks of persistence, I finally figured it out. I understood the topic inside and out. I was able to write my own exploit that bypassed data execution prevention, and I got through it. It's those challenges with ourselves, the frustration, I can't do this, the overcoming that makes you such a better person down the road because a little bit of pain and frustration means that you're learning something new and you're getting a new trait. And just overcoming that adversity and pushing through it will make you such a stronger person because of it. And so, those lessons that I've learned throughout businesses and, anything else has really made me a lot stronger of a person because I'm able to plow through things that may be challenging, knowing that I need to learn something that maybe I don't know enough about on a specific topic.
Now, I'm guessing that same, I don't know, instinct or maybe it's not an instinct, right? It's something you trained into yourself, I think it sounds like, to kind of push through these challenges, push through that little bit of pain, because learning is uncomfortable, right? I think there's a video that went around a while back and there's this like really old rabbi and he's telling this story. I think it's more credible because he's this really old rabbi for some reason, but he's telling this story about the lobsters and he says, listen, like if we gave lobsters Prozac, they'd never grow. Because what happens is a lobster grows inside of its exoskeleton, it gets cramped in there, and it goes under a rock and scrapes that thing off because it's painful and it sucks. And then it's able to grow and it grows a new shell, and then that keeps happening, right? But the growth all comes through this pain. And hearing you describe that, I'm guessing that that's part of how you've been successful in fitness and stuff. And so I wanted just kind of verify that, but then also maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the Hacking Your Health podcast and like how does a cybersecurity founder and company owner end up on a fitness podcast or running a fitness podcast, right? Like how does where does that transition happen? Where did that come from?
Yeah, you hit on a really good point there around when you go into something, kind of going all in on it and removing the discomfort from that. So when you go into something new, what I like to do is I study the heck out of it. I try to understand the high level of what my topic is, but then start diving down into areas that interest me. And that interest is, I think, what's made me successful because I make it more of my hobby. I make it more of something that I enjoy doing. So same thing for security. I made security my hobby. I remember writing the social engineer toolkit literally 10, 15 hours a day because I loved doing it. I loved coding. I loved figuring out new ways of doing things. I would go on a pen test and, I'd figure out a new way of hacking into something. I'd code it into the tool. I'd release it. I'd publicize it. I'd help others out, and that type of stuff was really fun for me because it was my hobby. So I think if you can make something your hobby that you enjoy doing, your chances of being successful at it are much more greater than not. And fitness is kind of the same thing. So a little bit of history of myself, I've always struggled with weight my entire life. Ever since I was a kid, I was overweight. The only time that I didn't struggle is when the military had me and they forced me, to run every single day and what I eat and everything else. And I thinned down then and I was able to run and do all those other things. But, as soon as I got out of the military again, I ballooned back up again, and I think my heaviest I was around 318 pounds. At that point, I was having health issues, putting on that much weight and carrying that around, being such a big guy. So, being a tall, big guy is like the worst thing for your heart and cardiovascular and everything else. And my doctor came to me and said, listen, we have to do heart surgery. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, we gotta work on your heart because, your weight and your health is just not there and it's causing an issue in your heart. We gotta basically correct it. And he said to me one thing that really stuck with me, which was, if you don't change your habits, you're not going to be around for your kids for a very long time. And that like was a jolt to my system saying, I need to do something different. And my whole career, I sacrificed my health for my business, for learning, for technology. It was a bragging right to sit there and code until 4:00 in the morning while drinking alcohol and then waking up at 6:00 and going to work and doing that every single day and just taking a toll on my body. And those things eventually started to catch up with me. And I think that's a thing that's very, very much looked highly upon in our industry, which is, hey, how long can you code for? What'd you do? 4:00 in the morning, burn people out. How much can you work at an office on an incident response engagement? This lifestyle that we have here is always like a firefight mode, and it takes a toll on our body. And, I finally had a realization, like I had to take a step back and say, well, do I really need to work, 10 hours a day or 15 hours a day or 20 hours a day or 22 hours a day or 24 hours a day? Sometimes I would do two days straight. Is that really necessary? Or can I be more efficient with what I do and also focus on my health? So I started a journey on really trying to take care of my health and to redesign who I was. And I've had a lot of success. I'm 40 years old. I'm doing 600-pound deadlifts, and I'm lifting 6 days a week. I'm doing HIIT training. I can still do a 5-minute mile, and I can do 17-minute 3 miles. So it's one of those things where fitness has become a really important piece of mine. And that was really because I was able to put a framework around myself and also make fitness kind of my hobby and be successful with it, right? If you see a trend here, cybersecurity was kind of my hobby and what I focused on. Successful at that. Business, made it my hobby and what I like to do. And the business thing is kind of an interesting one because you wouldn't think business would be a hobby, but being able to build a company the way that you want to, like if you come to our offices, it's extremely rare to see somebody here past 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have massage chairs and nap rooms if you want to. We have a gym here. We stock the fridge full of food. We don't want people working 10 hours a day here. In fact, if I see people on Slack or Mattermost more, past 6 o'clock, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you still up? Why are you still online? Why don't you go spend time with your family? So being able to build a company that embodies your culture and what you want to accomplish is why we don't have a large loss of retention. I think we've lost, at TrustedSec, I think we lost 2 people over the past 2.5 years, and that's for more family-related things. That's insane for a cybersecurity company when this field's moving around, right? And we continue to grow and add because we take care of our folks, we take care of our people. So that business became a hobby as well. So things that you can focus on and home in on and enjoy doing, those things you will be highly successful on in anything that you do and accomplish, because if you believe in yourself, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, well, it goes to the intrinsic motivators, isn't it? It's being a part of something bigger, making a difference. You're intrinsically motivated to change something or grow or build something. I think security has done a really good job at not listening to social sciences for a very long time. And we really messed up when it came to that. Because I took the same approach you did, Dave, is I would work till 2 a.m. and then I'd get up at 5 to go to work. And I was like, oh yeah, this is an achievement. And then I burnt out really, really badly. And then at my current role, I'm doing the Error Fun annual assessments. Everybody loves those, I know. I hate doing my own self-assessment. But one of the findings, or one of the competencies I have to measure myself as a manager, is my ability to measure or to stop myself going beyond my capabilities. Not skill set, but beyond allowing myself to burn out. If I do burn out, then clearly I'm doing something wrong, right? And I remember looking at that and being like, that's such a weird thing to get a company to measure you on.
I like that metric. I might incorporate that. That's an interesting one.
It's a really good one though. And it's not something I've ever been measured on before. And it was like trying to change my perspective, because this is my first internal role. I've always been a consultant, and workaholicness is a consulting thing.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? And so it was really weird going through the objectives and seeing I need to be a good manager, I need to not over-apply myself. I need to measure myself and work more smartly. I'm using really wrong words.
No, you're making perfect sense.
But I need to work smart, not overwhelm myself. And so I think that's a really good point to make. And the other thing I was going to say is one of my best achievements in my career was failing. I was a business owner as well many years ago, and I had to close my business because I moved continent. So it's a little bit difficult. And also, I don't have the money to afford the visa required to be able to be allowed to be self-employed in this country. But I think that was such a good experience, is seeing that other's perspective, seeing an entrepreneur, but then also failing, because ultimately I closed the business. That's not successful. But I think that was a really good lesson. And I think even if somebody ultimately wants to do the entrepreneur route, and maybe they do fail, they think that's a bad thing. But actually, sometimes, I mean, I'm happy to hear your insights, but I think that's also a good thing, even if you do ultimately not succeed in that area.
Failure is one of the best things that we have as human beings to learn from. Our brains are incredible, and you have kind of an autonomous system that learns from failing. If you ever played sports, do you think LeBron James was amazing at basketball the first time he picked up a basketball? No, he's played thousands and thousands of hours, and he's shot from a whole bunch of different places, and his brain has learned in different positions where to throw different things at, because his failures are what make him stronger. And that's how we learn as humans, regardless of what it is, whether it's sports, whether it's picking up a new career, reading a new book, that is specifically mind intensive. Those failures really make us a much stronger person individually, because eventually we're going to figure out why we failed and what we need to do differently to not fail in the future. And so in this industry, the one thing I will say about this industry, the cybersecurity community, because there's the industry and then there's the community. I think the community is very accepting of new people coming in. It wasn't always that way. There's still areas where it's not, but the industry, the community as a whole, is very accepting of new folks coming in, as well as failures, because we all fail. We all have failed in some capacity, in some way, shape, or form. And I think, the community uplifting people, and you'd mentioned, Zoe, that being part of something greater. I think the community aspects of what we do in cybersecurity is really important, because you feel like you're contributing to something greater to help the industry become better, whether that's the cybersecurity industry, whether that's your home, whether that's your job, all of those things. I think, there's a lot of statistics on this too, around like the newer generations care less and less and less about monetary aspects of things. You look at kind of my generation, which is you work a 9 to 5 and you come home and you work with your family for the rest, and then you go to your 9 to 5 and you come home. Whereas the newer generation wants to be a part of something collectively that is making a difference in the world. And that shift is to me is a good thing. A lot of people will complain about the newest generation of not working. I find the exact opposite, where they want to work, but they have to be motivated by something that is bigger than them. And, I think your career, when you look at your career, I wanted to leave this earth saying, hey, I made the world a better place in some way, shape, or form. And that is my goal, and that's what drives me. So whether that's stuff I do on the side, I build, I try to get once a year, but I build esports gaming facilities for inner city schools that don't have, technology budgets, things like that. And so creates, anywhere between 15 to 20 new full boat scholarship opportunities for kids to go to colleges in tech degrees, get them out of the cycle there. So I build esports gaming facilities, and I have a new one that's going to launch this year. I did another one at Bedford, where I graduated from, as inner city school. Net median income was $30,000 a year, which is well below the national average, very poverty stricken area. So I try to help others, not just in the capacity of cybersecurity, but local communities and things that I can do by myself in my capacity to help others. So being able to help others, that I think is a big deal. And if you're just coming up in your career and, talking about imposter syndrome, know that your experiences are valuable and it may help some other people. So can you overcome that imposter syndrome and say, if I can help one person or 10 people or 15 people, is that worth it for me? To kind of move myself forward and progress forward. And I think those are things that you can kind of look at in retrospect and say, yeah, I like helping people. So let's go and do this.
Awesome. I love that message. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Dave, thank you so much for sharing your story with the Imposter Syndrome Network. And thank you to all of our listeners for your attention and your support. We do have a LinkedIn group for the Imposter Syndrome Network that we'd love for you to join and get or give career advice, mentorship, or just general community support. Before we close out, Dave, I am curious, being a fitness person and somebody who also runs a business and seems pretty put together, I'm assuming you have some kind of morning routine, daily ritual. And I wonder if you could share with us what your morning routine looks like.
Sure. So for me, workouts are immutable. I have to do them. There's something that is part of my schedule. So if I'm out partying all night, which doesn't happen very often anymore, I know that I still have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get my workout, and I'm going to deal with the ramifications of that, right? So my morning ritual is I wake up at a certain time. I get my workout done before, the chaos of the day starts. So I'm showered, I'm fresh, I'm ready to go. But the one thing that I found about exercising in the morning is that it starts the day off in an already amazing, positive high note. I've already accomplished something for myself where I'm bettering myself. And so the day is already a positive. Regardless of how the day goes, it could be a totally horrible day. That positive start usually means that it's going to be a positive day for me. So that's usually my morning of working out. I have a gym that I built in my basement. I usually knock it out there so I don't have to deal with people. I like dealing with people, but it's easier for me to just go downstairs in my basement, get that knocked out. And then I usually go into the office and start my day working, with folks. I prefer working interactively with humans, but we don't require folks to come in the office. Like it's, work from home wherever you want, work flex hours, come in at 2:00 in the afternoon, work whenever you want. It doesn't make a difference to us as long as you get your work done. But for me, I like human interaction and working with people. So, anywhere I can see other people and dialogue and work together is kind of my thing. So, but I work on a lot of things. I'll still do penetration testing. I'll still do red teams, try to allocate time for the hobbies that I enjoy doing. But I also got to run businesses too and, be in marketing meetings and sales meetings and things like that, which also excites me. So I get a wide plethora of things I get to do throughout the day, which is a lot of fun.
Awesome. I know you're on Twitter at Hacking Dave. Obviously, you've got Binary Defense and TrustedSec, plus the podcast. We'll link to all those in the show notes. Do you have any other projects or places folks should reach out to you, or anything else that the listeners, the Imposter Network, should know about?
Nope, that's pretty much my main things for now. We'll have a big announcement coming out next year around helping others out, which is really cool, but I can't talk about it yet. But a way to get new folks into the industry that may not be able to afford college and things like that and get their careers progressing. So that's one of my big passions, has been kicking off and working on for 4 years. And finally, next year, we'll be launching it. So that'll be a really cool thing coming out here really soon that I'm really excited about. But other than that, I think you hit all the main areas and really appreciate you having me on today. Been really great talking to you too.
Yeah, likewise. We will be back next week.
That was the one thing that I learned from working whilst pregnant is napping is really important. And if you don't have your camera on, you are fully capable of eating through the entire meeting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The worst is when you have a whole thing of food in your mouth, though, and then they call and you're like, one moment.
Right.
I've had that a few times.
I was searching for the mute key.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute talking. Sorry.
Right.